Hey guys, what's going on? So we talked about Dire Maul and how good some of the gold farming methods are, but we didn't really talk about the loot within, and we also didn't go into detail on those farms. So in today's video, we are going to talk about Dire Maul East, the gear that's available to players there, and also how to perform Dire Maul jump runs. So first off, Dire Maul East is considered the easiest wing of Dire Maul. You can go in there in your mid 50s to late 50s and get a lot of really good upgrades without many issues in the dungeon. Like I said, very easy to farm, and that's why, two people can do jump runs at level 60 with some decent gear. So let's get right into how to get into Dire Maul East. So obviously, we make our way into Dire Maul, and it's going to be the entrance towards the east, hence Dire Maul East. Pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy. So now that we find ourselves in Dire Maul East, we have to understand that just like many dungeons in Classic WoW, there is a somewhat attunement process to get access to the later dungeons. Specifically, getting the Crescent Key, which will allow you to open doors within Dire Maul West and Dire Maul North. So doing this will help you out with those other dungeons, so it is very important. When you go inside, to the left, you'll find a small imp named Pacillin, and he will enable you to pick up a key from him once you kill him. You do have to chase him around the dungeon for a small bit. I think he stops around 4 to 5 times, and then at the very end, when he finally comes to a stop, you'll be able to kill him. But this will allow you or your group to loot the key off of him, which will help you out navigating later Dire Maul dungeon. Now, I strongly suggest making sure you do this quote-unquote attunement process to get this key early on when Dire Maul comes out, as many groups will be willing to do the imp escort portion of this dungeon. Now, later on, you'll find fewer and fewer groups that are willing to do the imp portion just because it does take a little bit of time, and most groups down the road will just want to do the jump run strategy. So make sure to get that key. You group up with groups that are willing to do that early on, and that will just help you down the road finding groups for North and West and being able to open the doors. Alright guys, so now that we know about the imp, we also need to know about jump runs. So the reason they're called jump runs is because instead of running around the outside of the dungeon when you first enter to the right, you actually will jump down towards the left near the imp. And this will allow you to skip a lot of trash and also get right down to some of the bosses quickly. So this also is where a lot of people will farm lashers. As you can see me walking around down here, all of these mobs are actually static. I'm just using an emulator map, so none of this content actually works right now in the game, but I'm just using this to show you kind of the layout of things. So these tree elementals will actually be wandering back and forth in packs. However, this does give you a sense of the layout of the dungeon, and that is where you would kill those lasher packs. So if we make our way down through this room into the next room, we will find the first boss that we come across, which is our water elemental boss. Now, this water elemental boss is called Hydrospawn. He's very easy. You just need to worry about his knockback. So a lot of times tanks will tank him against the walls. Other than that, he does spawn some water elementals, like some ads that are very weak, and you can kill them or kind of ignore them till the end. But that is, the mechanics of him. Now let's talk about his loot table. So the loot that you can get off of Hydrospawn isn't really that great. There are a few unique pieces. The leather spell power boots can, help out shamans and druids that are looking for some spell power, but mainly the piece that we want to look at is Tempest Talisman. Tempest Talisman is actually very good. 1% crit on a necklace with a boss that you can easily do with 2 people at level 60, or with a small 5-man of mid-level 50s easily can take down this boss. But beyond just the loot that you can get off this boss, every boss within Dire Maul has a chance to drop Librams and also class books. These are very helpful to not only yourself, but also to be able to pick up and sell on the auction house to other players who need these items. This is what makes Dire Maul jump runs so lucrative. Alright guys, So now after killing Hydrospawn, we're going to make our way up this spiral ramp to our second boss, which is Zevrim Thornhoof. Now, an interesting mechanic that Zevrim has is he actually mind controls a player and puts their body up on this altar. Now, it does quite a bit of damage and it can be kind of annoying. One great thing to do as a shaman is use your totems, and it will actually teleport a totem. Now, this is something that happened on private servers, so we may not see that kind of AI within Classic WoW, but it'll be interesting to see. Overall, fairly easy fight. We just have to worry about that one mechanic. Now, let's take a look at some of the gear that he does drop. Now, Clever Hat is not your best piece, but as a shaman who's just now hitting 60, this can be a great item to look for. Obviously, there's some other pieces that are not quite as good. The mail headpiece, you can kind of find some nice shadow resist on or other resistance that you're looking for PvP, but the real weapon that we want to talk about is the Satyr's Bow or Satyr's Bow. Now, this bow is very, very nice for melee DPS. For that 1% hit. Now, you do have another option, which is Black Crow. However, this farm will be much easier to do. So if you have yet to get that weapon Black Crow, I suggest just trying to farm Satyr Bow, as it will be much faster and easier for you. And this is also another way that jump runs become very lucrative, as you can sell this bow to rogues who cannot solo the boss on their own. Now, another reason why it is called a jump run is for this exact reason. After we kill this second boss, we can run over to the ledge here and jump right down to where Hydrospawn was and make our way back out into that large courtyard. Now, once we make our way into this courtyard, we need to talk to the giant tree elemental. He will allow us to open up the final gate to the last boss. And this boss is called Alzzin. Now, he has a very large loot table, and once again, this is exactly why we call it jump runs, because again, we are going to be jumping down. We try and hit this pedestal healer to take a little less fall damage, but we want to end up in the corner over there. Now, again, just like the rest of the bosses in Dire Maul East, he's not too tricky. He does take the form of either a wolf or, I believe, a tree. Obviously, the wolf is going to do quite a bit of physical damage, and he has some various abilities that he can do. He has like a disarm, a knockdown, and then in tree form, he has like a regrowth. But overall, pretty easy fight. The one thing you do need to note is after killing this boss, he is going to summon a lot of little teeny imps, and they're very easy to AoE down, but just note that that will be coming after he is dead. Alright, so let's talk about his loot table. Well, his loot table is fairly large, and while this is a good thing in some regards, it also means that finding that one piece of gear that you want may take you several runs. Now, this gear that he does drop is very healer-centric, which is nice for all those healers out there that are looking for some good pieces. Now, it ranges between leather, mail, and cloth gear, so you'll have to take a look at that and see what stuff you can get. Obviously, some really nice MP5 rings for those shamans out there, and also this very interesting pair of gloves that has an equip while struck in combat inflicts 3 arcane damage to an attacker. So if you're a warrior or maybe a paladin who wants to AoE farm a little bit, those pieces are very nice to add a little bit of extra damage each time you're hit. So that concludes Dire Maul, guys. Now, I will show you exiting, because this is also a big deal. Now, when we run out of Dire Maul, we don't actually need to reset. We can run out of the instance and we're basically right back at the beginning. So the great thing about this is you don't need to do that log out strategy where we log out and camp to get the reset on the dungeon. You can actually just run out of the dungeon and get right back in. The other thing about running out of the dungeon is as we leave this cave, I know it doesn't show you here on this footage, but there are between 2 to 3 rich thorium veins within this cave. So if you're going to do jump runs, make sure yourself or your partner has mining, because this is going to up your gold per hour quite a bit, especially if you get lucky with some drops of arcane crystals. So that's kind of the rundown of Dire Maul East and also Dire Maul East jump runs. So now you should know how to do that, and hopefully you can go out and make a lot of gold. Like I said, You can sell all the items to vendors. You can also try and invite people to get after some of those really nice pieces that are best in slot, like the satyr bow. You can also obviously look to try and make some gold off of getting lucky with drops of the Librams or of the class books. So hopefully this helps, guys. Now we know all about Dire Maul East, and I'll catch you in the next video.